Hey music artists, this is Tiamo, and if you missed the first set of this mini training series, on the last video I talked about how to perform in front of instant sold out crowds, where you can get booked to perform at conferences, at schools like high schools and colleges, at seminars, corporate events, trainings, things like that, so that when you are performing in front of these audiences, you're not doing any self-promotion because the company or the school or the organization or sometimes the association did all the work in getting the people there. So then when you are booked on those stages, you're just performing and doing what you love and not having to do all the marketing, the self-promotion for it. So I talked about that in the first video. I also talked about how to get 100% of your audiences going home with your album when you have a partnership with the company, the school, or the organization where they purchase your album as a gift of appreciation to all of the attendees at the event, and then they all go home with your album. So then you're getting paid to deliver the performance from stage, but then you're also getting paid because they're buying your album and then everyone's getting it. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is something that I alluded to and shared on the first video, which was keynote concerts. And I know a lot of you have so many questions about it, what a keynote concert is and things like that. So I'm going to dive a little deeper today in this training about keynote concerts and what that looks like. And then the other thing I'm going to be teaching you about is how you can not only deliver a keynote concert from stage, but then get booked that same day for a private VIP concert. So I know through some of my teachings, a lot of music artists are familiar with private concerts, but a big question I get is, what are private VIP concerts? So I'm going to be talking about that today very briefly. So a keynote concert is where you combine live music with speaking. In my context, I'm a singer-songwriter, so what I do is I tell the stories about my songs, so that's the speaking part. I have a message, and then I perform my original songs. And what I love about this is, as a songwriter, is that I'm getting booked and paid really well, which I'll talk about in a little bit, to perform my own original songs. So now this can work for you if you do covers, right? You don't have to do original songs. If you're a songwriter, then this works perfect for you. But it could be other people's music, so it doesn't have to be your own. But that's what works great for me. That's what I love because I'm a singer-songwriter. So essentially, it's my regular set. I play my original songs. I tell my stories, but I do it in a format of a keynote concert. And so what that means is you have all of these conferences and events that need to book the motivational keynote for the highlight of their conference, their seminar, their banquet, things like that. And normally they book speakers, and unfortunately a lot of speakers out there can be pretty dry, pretty boring. A lot of them have like the podium in front of them, they've got like the PowerPoint, and they're just like reading off the PowerPoint with the slides, and then it's just like everyone's falling asleep. The beauty of doing a keynote concert is so much more dynamic, where you're adding the emotional and the entertainment element to it through the music, right? So this is where you're delivering music, you're performing on stage, and you're also talking about the music, or you're talking about the songs and what they mean, and you're sharing stories and things like that, which is what I used to do in my old coffee shop days anyway. But here's the key. In doing keynote concerts, I approach companies, schools, and organizations by saying that I'm a keynote speaker and just changing that one word around, right? So like between you and me, the secret here is that I'm still a singer-songwriter, but I'm calling myself a speaker. And the reason why I do that is because if I approach them as a musician, or I say I'm a singer-songwriter, then I'm very likely going to get paid on a musician's budget, which is, all right, well, that's really nice, Tiamo. We'll go ahead and pay you $250 to perform on our corporate stage. Something like that. Why is it like that? Because musicians, unfortunately, will play for free or next to nothing. However, speakers inherently demand a much greater fee, right? So speakers, particularly keynote speakers, get paid thousands of dollars to deliver a speech. So when I say I'm a speaker, now I'm demanding a speaker fee, as opposed to a musician's fee. But by doing it that way, I'm delivering the keynote concert, which they're going to get even greater value with because they're getting the entertainment, they're getting the inspiration through the music, and they're getting the speech part. So then it's much more dynamic and exciting and engaging for the audiences, especially when we talk about like the youth market with high schools and colleges, and then of course corporate events, because most corporate events are really boring, but then you make it exciting by doing a keynote concert. So another question is, well, what do you get paid to do a keynote concert? That all depends on different companies' budgets, but what I can tell you is that my fee is $10,000 to do a keynote concert. That's not how I started out. Of course, that's how I evolved. But starting out, you could start out making a few thousand per keynote concert gig. And the types of venues that you could do keynote concerts at would be companies where they do corporate events. It could be associations, schools like I mentioned earlier, and annual events and retreats and all kinds of things like that. So that gives you kind of the scope of what's available out there. And when I say what's available out there, when we think of the traditional music industry model, it's like you have just so many musicians competing to play the same venues and the same gigs. So there might be a town or a city and it's like, all right, there's maybe 10 pretty good venues and there's like thousands of music artists and they're all trying to play on the same 10 stages. However, in this world, it's completely different because I can tell you that there are over 5,200 conferences per day on average that are happening every day in this country. 5,200 per day. And then when we look at the budgets, the average budget that event planners have for their events is $1.4 million. So if I'm charging $10,000 for a keynote concert, that's less than 1% of their budget, which means they're so much. It's so much easier for them to pay you, and they're happy to pay you because it's less than 1% of their budget, and they know the inspiration, the entertainment, and the value that you're going to bring. So they are willing and expecting to pay you that. So what my keynote concert looks like on stage is it's usually about an hour, and on average I tell 3 stories about my songs and then I sing 3 songs. So that takes me about an hour, and then I weave in a little bit of messaging and sharing around my topic and stuff like that. But the content piece is usually just about 10 minutes of content, and the other 50 minutes is stories and songs. So I love that because I'm getting to do what I love. So that's a little bit about keynote concerts. Of course, the people that you want to get in touch with to get booked are event planners, also known as meeting planners, and they're the decision makers that book you to get on those stages. And so I also want to talk about private VIP concerts before I wrap up this video. Now, private VIP concerts is where if you're already doing the keynote concert for the event, then what if you do a private VIP concert later that afternoon? Right? Like so you've got the main event, like the main conference that's happening, and then later that afternoon or that evening, a more intimate, exclusive event where you will be delivering a private concert for, let's say, upper management or top sales executives within that company, or if it's at a school, maybe it's their top students, or if it's a volunteer organization, maybe it's their highest level volunteers, or if it's a school, maybe it's their top donors. I could go on with all that, but you kind of get the idea of like it's for higher performing people or people who are they want to show a greater appreciation for in some exclusive way. So then you have a smaller setting and you're delivering this private concert. And when I do that, it's usually like an hour-long set, maybe like 45 minutes, an hour. And then, in that way, I get to tell more of my stories and play more of my songs. And for me, the way I do it is just me and my guitar, and I'm singing because I'm a singer-songwriter. And I love that because I love when I do a keynote concert and I'm doing it in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. I've done it up to in front of 15,000 people. So I love the excitement around that. But I also love the more intimate feel where maybe there's 50 people or 100 people or something like that. And then I'm getting paid separately to do the private VIP concert. So this is something that you want to weave into the conversation when you're getting booked to do keynote concerts, is you might as well talk to them about offering this very private, exclusive opportunity where they can book you to do a private concert. So I hope that you found this to be valuable. I hope that it's something that you're excited about and that you start getting on conference stages. Like I said, there's over 5,200 of them per day. So this market is wide open and waiting for you to deliver your keynote concerts. And I'll be teaching and training a lot more in detail about how I do that. But for today, I want to get started about what it looks like. And so you get a good picture so that you feel encouraged, hopeful, and ready to go with this. And thank you so much for thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.